Sometimes it isn't shouting or violence that changes a child forever. Sometimes it's the quiet, the long pauses, the emotional absence that fills a home heavier than noise ever could. A child senses it before they understand it. Something is wrong, and no one is coming to fix it. So a silent decision forms, not in words, but in instinct. If I don't hold this together, everything will fall apart. This is where childhood quietly ends. The child doesn't disappear physically. They still go to school. They still smile in photos. But psychologically, something shifts. They stop asking for help. They start watching faces closely. They learn when to speak and when to stay silent. They sense tension before it's spoken and adjust themselves accordingly. They become emotionally alert long before their brain is ready for that responsibility. Slowly, they become the emotional stabilizer of the household. They regulate moods that aren't theirs. They soothe adults who are supposed to soothe them. They shrink their needs to make room for everyone else's chaos. And the world rewards them for it. You're so mature for your age. You're so responsible. You're so strong. What no one asks is the question that matters most. What did it cost you to become that way? This is the invisible grief of children who grow up too fast. They are praised for their strength while quietly grieving the safety they never had. And the tragedy is this: those survival skills don't disappear with age. They follow you. Into adulthood. Into relationships. Into your sense of worth. If you don't understand what happened back then, you may spend your adult life repeating the same patterns, over-functioning, over-giving, self-silencing, not because you're broken, but because those patterns once kept you safe. To understand this psychology, we have to look beneath behavior and into development itself. Because when a child is forced to emotionally support adults, the brain adapts in ways that feel like strength, but are actually survival. And what you call just the way I am might actually be a child who never got to be one. When a child is placed in a role they were never meant to carry, psychology has a name for it: parentification. This happens when a child becomes the caretaker, mediator, emotional support, or protector of the adults around them. Sometimes it's obvious. Other times it's subtle, listening, managing moods, keeping the peace. But regardless of how it looks, the impact is profound. A child's nervous system is designed to receive regulation, not provide it. When that role is reversed, the brain adapts by entering a state of constant alertness. This creates hypervigilance, a survival mode where the child is always scanning for danger, emotional shifts, or signs of instability. They learn that love must be earned through usefulness. That safety depends on performance. That their own needs are inconvenient, even dangerous. So they stop expressing them. Instead, they become exceptionally good at reading rooms. They sense tension before words are spoken. They adjust their tone, behavior, even personality to prevent conflict. Over time, this creates a false identity, one built around being easy, helpful, and low maintenance. And it works on the outside. But internally, something fractures. Because the child learns a devastating lesson: who I am is less important than what I provide. The brain wires itself around responsibility instead of play, control instead of curiosity, suppression instead of expression. Emotional needs don't disappear, they get buried. And what grows in their place is competence without comfort. This is why many people who grew up too fast become high achievers. They perform well. They handle pressure. They stay composed. But beneath that capability lives an unacknowledged grief, the grief of never being protected. The inner child doesn't vanish. They wait. Quietly. Carrying questions they were never allowed to ask. Why was I the one holding everything together? Why did no one notice I was overwhelmed? And as the years pass, the cost of this adaptation becomes clearer. Because the same strategies that once ensured survival begin to sabotage intimacy, rest, and joy. Children who grow up too fast don't look broken. They look capable, reliable, calm under pressure. They become the strong one, the child who doesn't cause trouble, doesn't need reassurance, doesn't fall apart. And that's the most dangerous part. Because the mask works so well that even they forget it's a mask. They cry less, not because they feel less, but because emotions had nowhere safe to land. They smile more, not because they're happier, but because it keeps others comfortable. They learn that emotional expression risks destabilizing the environment, so they internalize everything. Over time, this creates emotional numbness. Not emptiness, but distance. Joy feels unfamiliar. Rest feels unsafe. Stillness feels suspicious. When chaos has been the baseline, peace feels wrong. Many adults who grew up too fast struggle with hyperindependence. They refuse help. They feel uncomfortable relying on others. Asking feels like weakness. Receiving feels like debt. Love feels transactional, even when no one is asking for payment. Inside, the inner child is still waiting. Waiting to be chosen. Waiting to be held. Waiting for someone to say, "You don't have to do everything alone anymore." But because they learned early that vulnerability equals risk, they protect themselves by staying emotionally guarded. They become the caretaker in friendships, the fixer in relationships, the dependable one at work. And no one notices that they are exhausted. Worst of all, many don't realize they're still in survival mode. When dysfunction is normalized early, the nervous system mistakes stress for normalcy. Calm becomes unfamiliar. Safety becomes boring. Love becomes something to manage rather than feel. This is not a character flaw. It's a trauma response. And until it's seen for what it is, it will continue shaping decisions, relationships, and self-worth, quietly, relentlessly. No child consciously decides to become an adult. It's not a choice, it's a biological adaptation. Children are wired for attachment. Safety depends on connection. So when stability is threatened, the child does whatever is necessary to maintain closeness, even if that means abandoning their own needs. This is not weakness. This is intelligence. In environments where emotional safety is inconsistent, authenticity becomes dangerous. So the child trades it for belonging. They learn that being needed is safer than being seen. That usefulness secures connection better than vulnerability ever could. And this adaptation works. It keeps relationships intact. It reduces conflict. It creates a sense of control in chaos. But here's the tragedy: what saved the child becomes a prison for the adult. The inner child grows up inside a body that keeps functioning, achieving, giving, but never truly resting. The adult overachieves to earn love, stays silent to avoid abandonment, cares for everyone while secretly wishing someone would finally ask, "Are you okay?" That fantasy, that someone will notice the cracks beneath the strength, isn't weakness. It's the unmet need of a child who was never allowed to need. Healing doesn't begin with fixing behaviors. It begins with witnessing. With acknowledging that what happened mattered, even if others had it worse. Even if you survived. Even if you turned out fine. Because fine can be another mask. And the moment you stop minimizing your pain is the moment you begin to reclaim yourself. Adults who grew up too fast often feel unsafe even in calm rooms. Their nervous systems don't recognize peace as neutral. It feels unfamiliar, sometimes threatening. They become givers who struggle to receive. Lovers who fear softness. Friends who listen deeply but rarely share. They apologize for crying. Flinch at compliments. Confuse exhaustion with success. Boundaries feel like betrayal. Saying no triggers guilt. Rest feels undeserved. These are not personality traits. They are learned coping strategies. and the cost is high. Relationships become unbalanced. Resentment builds quietly. Emotional intimacy feels risky. The adult keeps waiting for permission to finally fall apart, but no one gives it. Here's the hard truth: no one is coming to rescue the child you buried. Healing begins when you choose to go back yourself. Not to fix the past, but to finally acknowledge it. To say what no one else said: you didn't deserve that. You were just a child. This is shadow work. Not bypassing pain. Not forcing positivity. But turning toward the abandoned parts and staying. And it hurts. Because it asks you to grieve what you never had time to feel. To mourn lost innocence. To feel anger that was never safe to express. But grief is not weakness. It's thawing. Many adults who grew up too fast become emotional professionals. They manage everyone's feelings but hide their own. They are praised for independence while secretly fearing they're a burden. They overfunction in relationships, fixing, managing, over-explaining, then wonder why they feel invisible. They struggle with boundaries because saying no still feels like abandonment. The breakthrough comes when you stop glorifying strength and start honoring wounds. Ask your inner child, what did I need back then? The answers are often simple. Safety. Reassurance. Play. Permission to rest. Someone to say, it wasn't your fault. Healing doesn't mean erasing the past. It means meeting those needs now, slowly, imperfectly, consistently. Carl Jung said there is no coming to consciousness without pain. Shadow work asks us to face what we buried, the scared, angry, neglected parts we were taught to ignore. Healing isn't becoming someone new. It's remembering who you were before you had to perform. You grew up fast because you had no choice. But now you do. You can choose softness. You can choose rest. You can choose to stop managing everyone else's emotions and start honoring your own. Some days you will feel small again. Good. That means the child is finally coming home. You never had a childhood, but you still have a future. Healing doesn't happen overnight. It unfolds as you allow yourself to feel, to rest, to play, to be imperfect without apology. You are not broken. You adapted. And now you are becoming whole. For the first time, you get to grow up without fear. Without pressure. Without silence. This time, you get to write the story,